All right, welcome back, everybody. Back to Youngstown's Talk Channel. We have a special segment here. John Bolino's here. We kind of we're in need and we're thirsty for your persuasion on the political side, and so we want to give you the stage here for the next half hour or so, and bring your side of the story.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, it's nice to see you again. We haven't seen each
likewise.
other in a little while, but working in the industry we used to work in really in the last 4 years at WKBN, you hear the one side, you hear the right side. I'm more of a George Bush Sr., Bill Clinton kind of, liberal. I'm on that left side, central. I'm more of I don't know. I mean, because let's say that, what was the best thing that Bill Clinton did to you, for you?
Balance the budget.
Absolutely. And you know what? They did a Doge the same way, but they did it the constitutional way. Al Gore, went in with his people in Congress and they started cutting things, but they did it through Congress. Now, obviously the Clintons have their issues and God knows they have their issues, but it's more of a Democrat actually balanced the budget. Republicans keep growing the budget. Last 5 Republican presidents have upped the deficit more than the last 5 Democrats have. So why is the Republicans the conservatives and Democrats are the ones that are spending way too much? See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's more of I think we're backwards. And I'm more of the human rights, climate change kind of person also, because I believe in it. I've lived in Florida. I've seen what the weather has done to Florida. I mean, you remember Hurricane Andrew, 1992, went through Homestead, went through South Florida, destroyed businesses, destroyed the fruit industry for a long time. Well, we did have another one to Hurricane Katrina. It goes through New Orleans and wipes out Louisiana pretty much, and the west side of Alabama. Then you have Michael go up, the Big Bend. You got Ian, you got Charles. Something's going on. How can we not believe something's wrong with our environment? I mean, there's people in the not believing in science thing irks me to no end. I mean, now,
do you want me to argue on this? Because
absolutely, I want feedback.
No, we get my ideas like all week long, right? And
absolutely.
so I don't want to dominate it by pushing back. I mean, get your side out.
Let's have a conversation here. Let's have a conversation. See, and that was the one thing about talk radio, that it was like you get the 22 minutes of like a Ron Verber or Dan Rivers, spiel with nothing, with no challenge, no kickback, no calls. It was like, I don't know. That was the rare breed of person that I admire. I admired those two guys. Absolutely. They've done it. I mean, Ron's been there since the day KBN turned into a talk radio station. So, but my thing is, I like the conversation. I like kickback. This is what we need here. I love what you're doing here. I love this platform. This is what's going to dominate our news from here to Kingdom Come now.
For sure.
I mean, I was just telling your producer, I grew up with Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather, that I was after Cronkite. You got the half-hour nightly news. You had the news, and that was it. There was no opinion in it. But now you have the 24-hour news cycle. You have the CNNs, MSNBCs, and the Fox News. You have to put the opinion in. There's only so much news you can talk about. Right. But why are we going to both sides? I think CNN's the more center. MSNBC is far left. Fox News is far right. But we need something like this because we need to push back on each other. Now,
the impasse is usually when, everybody's so entrenched, nobody can consider that they might be wrong about something.
Or
right?
Just new ideas.
Right.
Maybe you can give on a little bit of your stuff for the better end of the people.
I'll use an example. So environmentalism. So I'm willing to extend that you might be right, that impact of people on the climate is a possibility.
Yeah.
Are you willing to say that your theory that we are having an impact, you might be wrong, and that we're not making a major impact on the environment?
Well, here's my thing. I don't know how much of an impact we're making because nobody really does. I mean, there's people that live to study this, but something's going on. So we need to know what's going on and if we can stop it from happening. They're expecting Europe.
No, but what if you're wrong though? What if you're wrong and there isn't an impact? What are you willing to risk and have cost? And then you were wrong all along. So sacrificing economy or sacrificing jobs, sacrificing, the purse, the federal budget. What if you're wrong all along?
Well, and that's the thing. That's why we're a globalized economy. I mean, I'm sorry. I know about the whole isolationism thing, America first, all this stuff. Those are gone. That was gone with World War II. When we tried to stay out of World War II until the Japanese bombed us. This is a globalized thing now. We need everybody's opinion throughout the world, not just America. We have the smartest and the brightest in a lot of different areas. But what if one side's wrong here and that side's in power like they are now? Or if the Democrats are in power, the great new scam they call it or whatever, they might have went too far with it. But maybe we need to look into it more. Maybe we need to be serious about this and see, hey, maybe we cut here, cut there. No, we don't want to devastate the economy. We don't want people to start.
It would be all right if you had the ability to, we'll say China's the big offender. If you're right and we're impacting the environment, then the biggest person that is impacting the environment would be China, which you do not have the ability to stop them from doing what they're doing. So if we make the sacrifice, we're punishing us and we're not the biggest contributor.
Oh, I get it. I mean, if China's that, the whole world has to hold them accountable. I mean, like I said, but we need China to study it more. I highly doubt China's discussing the environment. I don't think when the Communist Party gets together, they'll be like, you know what, maybe, that small cloud over Beijing is a bad thing. We did it with LA. We did it with New York. We did it with Chicago, Detroit. Could you see the difference in Youngstown since the mills have closed? You don't think that was a pollution thing? I mean, I've heard stories because I didn't really grow. I'm originally from Warren, but I didn't really grow up here in this area. I grew up more in Florida and PA. I've heard stories of people in the broad daylight having to scrape their cars during the summer because they lived next to Republic Steel or something like that. They had because they had soot on their cars. I mean.
But that same pollution is just happening in China. It's not that it's not happening now. It's just happening in a different place. Those same mills are still churning it out where we might have regulations here, right? That would make it less. China doesn't have those regulations. So they're doing that same production dirtier than if we had it right here.
Yeah. And absolutely. Like I said, but this is where the whole world's got to, go to China and be like, listen, this is happening. Bring out this data. Say, hey, Europe's expecting a deep freeze in the next 5 years. Europe doesn't have the infrastructure we have here to keep up with that.
How do you control China though? How do you become the boss of what
they need? Everybody else.
Do?
They need everybody else. They need our marketplace, but they need the UK's. They need France. They need everybody to buy their products because they have so many people. This is why they had the one-child law for so many years, which I hear they just revoked a couple of years ago. Like the whole world, one country, us. Can't do anything because they have the European, they got Australia, they got Africa, South America. Well, not so much Africa because let's face it, South Africa is pretty much the only country you're really looking forward to marketing towards. But you've got South America, which everybody forgets about. But like I said, this is where the globalized economy works. You put the pressure on China, but we need the hard data. The whole world has to do this, not just us. We need the hard data on the climate because let's face it, the jet stream is falling apart. If the jet stream falls apart, Europe freezes in the winter and is stifling hot in the summer, and they don't have the air conditioning in the heat that we have here. So, I mean, but you can see it with your bare eyes here. The storms have gotten stronger. We've had fires in LA. We've gotten Category 5 hurricanes all over the place, which was once in a lifetime thing. I went through Hurricane Matthew in 2016. If the eye would have came, I lived on the east coast of Florida over by the Space Center. If the eye would have came over our area, we had two islands that were gone. Merritt Island and Cape Canaveral would be gone. There would have been 12-foot storm surge and you're at sea level. It would have went almost into Orlando. Do you know how far that is? Mm-hmm. That's a 50-minute ride without traffic. I mean, the economic deficit, you can't get house insurance in a lot of places in Florida anymore. You know why? Because the insurance companies know their algorithms and know what they're doing and say, you know what? Even though that's up to code after Hurricane Andrew, because everything changed in Florida after Hurricane Andrew. This can this can withstand this amount of wind, this amount of damage. They're getting stronger. The insurance companies are going broke being in these southern states.
Because it's almost a certainty that they're going to get hit by another hurricane.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, you're a businessman. I mean, if you have an insurance company and you're like, you know what? It's not worth me the premiums that I'm getting from a highly populated state like Florida, where people are moving in. Your dividends aren't going to be there. Your profits aren't going to be there because you're going to have to pay more out in the next 15, 20 years. Because you don't think the insurance companies have climatists, people, meteorologists giving them feedback.
For sure. If it's 100% certain that the house is going to be decimated, then your premium equals the cost of your house because it's 100% certain.
Absolutely. Look at North Carolina. That's how far inland we are. This is the western part of North Carolina that's going to take years to rebuild. Yep. I just don't see this is where my main thing is. Bill Maher does it perfectly. I care about my elections, I care about my climate, I care about my economy. Period. And I mean, another thing about the economy, conservative cut. You know who per state, red or blue states use more federal aid? It's the red states, southern red states, which is known as the Bible Belt. The Tennessees, the Kentuckys, the Arkansas, the Mississippis, the Louisianas. They spend more than they bring in. So why is it the blue states who actually are funding the red states, the bad people?
They're not. Cut it all off. Like sending money up to the federal government to have it trickle back down to states in an inefficient government system. Terrible use of money.
And I agree. It's an inefficient system, especially when you're subverting the Constitution, especially when your corruption is out in the open now. At least Richard Nixon tried to hide his. At least, George H.W. with the Patriot Act tried to hide his. No. Trump is out there completely. $400 million plan for Petard. You don't think that's going to have any spyware or malware in it there? You don't think who's going to outfit that to be an Air Force One? I don't think Trump's going to dig in his pocket for that.
Why does the airplane upset people so much? Like that?
Because it's in the Constitution. Here. You can't take a gift. He's going to put that in his library when he's done. That's a gift from a foreign country. That's the bribery. That's an impeachable offense.
If you frame it that way, if it's a gift to the military, is it illegal for a military to gift military?
Are you going to trust Qatar with a military plane?
Well, no, don't deviate. Mm-hmm. It is. Did he gift it to Trump himself, or did they gift it to the military?
By the way, he gifted it to Trump as an Air Force One, but Trump's going to keep.
I think this is I think this is your framing.
Well, no, because he said, "I'm going to put this like Reagan has an Air Force One in his library in California. That's where they always have the first Republican debate usually. But he's going to put this in his library. So who's keeping it? It's the Trump library. So we're going to use this for the next 3 years because, well, hopefully he leaves office. And he's going to put it in his library. How is that not a gift?
To the military.
To the military, it's not going to be an active duty. It's not going to drop bombs. It's not going to do any surveillance. I mean, and by the way,
so is Air Force One a military vehicle?
Well, yeah, the Air Force.
So if they give it to the military and it becomes the ship that he goes around on, wouldn't it just be the same thing as Air Force One?
So, but how much is it going to take us to outfit?
Oh, too much. Like I don't agree with it's a good deal. Like I don't think you should be taking any gifts from people who are
especially from the country that's harboring Hamas's leadership.
I don't disagree with you that it's bad optics and it's a bad deal. But I don't think it's unconstitutional unless you frame it that this was like a quid pro quo where they gave him something expecting something in return. I haven't seen anything.
I'm pretty sure we just gave them AI contracts also. Right out, like he hadn't left the country and they signed the thing with a couple American companies. I'm not sure exactly who they were, but I did see the little tidbit that.
But it requires requires more than just two things that are loosely connected but not directly connected. If he said, give me this plane and I'll give you the AI, that would be something that would be illegal. If he goes to Europe and then he gets a factory to relocate or bring stuff to the United States, that just happened to happen because that's why he was there to negotiate development.
And here's the thing about that. These tariffs are doing this, these tariffs are doing that. People are like, oh, they're going to bring back everybody. Who do we have left? We've changed as a society since the 70s, since the steel mills. I mean, heck, Nippon Steel just had to buy the biggest U.S. company for 100 years almost, U.S. Steel. It was literally the shining light of U.S. companies at one time. There wasn't anybody close in the world to U.S. Steel. It just got sold to Nippon Steel in Japan from Japan. Mm-hmm. We're not an industrial complex country anymore. We're not a manufacturing country anymore. I mean,
technology company. Companies. That's our
the
niche.
AI thing's scary. Like you and Kellen, I loved your conversation on AI. The relationship thing to the work thing. I mean, you can see Kellen go beat red with the whole AI, with the whole.
But I'm telling you, what if you could figure out a way to cooperate with places like China, when culturally different, and having the people who are doing manufacturing for us follow us standards, but then holding them accountable, that sounds okay. But I don't know how you would. It's almost like you would need a new world order to properly control and make sure everybody follows those standards.
Well, yeah. I mean, we need something.
Not a friend.
I don't have the answers. You don't have the answers completely, but something has to be done, and it's not working the way it's going right now.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that should be first step, is propagating good ideas and having agreements between culturally way different places, but work together in cooperation to achieve a goal.
I tell you what, did you hear the stories of Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan? How they used to knock out deals. They used to go to the Oval Office to back, a bourbon, because you love your bourbon.
Oh yeah.
And they'd go in there, compromise.
Yep.
We're never going to get this again. This is these last two Congresses are the most worthless Congresses we've ever had.
For sure.
And you know why? It's the squad, and it's the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Lauren Boeberts, the Matt Gaetzes. By the way, Matt Gaetz, he just looks like remember Lazy Town, the cartoon or the kids show back in the day? Mm. If you look up the evil guy, he looks just like him, by the way. But how did you not know Matt Gaetz was what he was? There's no way as much as he fought for, gets Kevin McCarthy being, the Speaker of the House and all this stuff, he just gives up the Attorney General's position. There's something there, and he got out of Congress before the ethics report came out, period. So, but
I think they're all terrible.
Oh, yeah.
To pick any group.
No, there's some shining stars on both sides.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're going to have a heck of a battle here in this state for governor. I mean, I don't think Jim Trust.
You got a favorite, by the way? For governor?
I mean, Tim Ryan's going to put his hat in the ring. I think Tim was one of the most bipartisan people in Congress when he was there. He might not have done what a lot of people here like, but he compromised, because that's what you do in government. That's the way. That's why we have two parties. I'm also Chris Cuomo. We need another party. We need maybe just get rid of the parties, period. But we have shining stars on both sides. I mean, heck, the next Democratic, because let me preface this. I wasn't a Biden fan. Everybody knew what was going on in 2020. Biden won because of COVID. Biden won because Trump literally, my economy's going strong. Why am I going to do this? 3 months later, we were all locked in our houses. And I know the whole Fauci thing, and I don't want to get into the conspiracy theories because I'm not.
Come on, I love conspiracy.
Yeah,
dude, you're depriving
you get enough
me
of that with the other people, and you get enough of that.
Oh, man, John.
But no, I mean, a lot of people died. My girlfriend worked in a nursing home over in PA. In the first 2 weeks, we knew COVID was a thing here. Once we got locked up, 30 people died in the first month. You know how many phone calls that is? The human part of COVID was horrible.
So COVID doesn't happen, Biden doesn't get elected. Is that
absolutely not?
Not at all.
No, because I mean, and I've never been a Trump fan. I mean, but I dug into Trump's history. Trump's been a crook since day one. He's been a racist since day one. Central Park 5, main example. These guys weren't even tried yet. And he took a full page out. I think it was the New York Post. Death penalty right there. I mean, and these guys have been exonerated since they spent 15 years in prison. He doesn't call them and says, I'm sorry. He doesn't do anything like, oh, well, maybe it was a mistake. No, those were people's lives. I'm not saying he convicted them or anything like that, but his companies have been charged with not renting to black people. They would literally put a C in a circle. Like, how does people not know this? How do we elect somebody like this?
You know why? And Trump has a lot of things that you can be critical about, but everyone went to an absurd level, and then so there's so much stuff that gets levied against him, right? And then so when you say something that's absurd, they already made him into a mud monster. So it's not like you can say something that everybody's going to groan and say, yeah, you accused them of this last week. And so it just went overboard on it. So nothing sticks.
They both have. And the one thing I will agree with the Republicans on, social wise, I don't want any men in women's sports, period. I played sports. I was a decent player, not bad football, basketball. But I know if I played girls' sports, I would have dominated, period. That's the one thing I will give them on the social. So
why are they all in on that one? It's such a small contingency, but that the Democrats went all in towards that minority issue.
It wasn't the Democrats itself; it was the media that did it. The Democrats, they would say something about it or whatever, but it was the far left. Most of the Democrats are center. Hakeem Jeffries, the leader. Well, that's another thing. The Democrats don't have a clear leader right now. Hakeem Jeffries is the leader in the House, and Schumer's the leader in the Senate. But who's going to step up and say, I'm taking, this party? It's probably David Hogg. You know who that is, right? Yeah. You know what he went through.
Oh, dude. They shafted that dude.
That he's like, I don't care. He's more about the gun legislation. Why is there more guns in this country than there is people? What is the use of that? We love
our guns. We love them.
I mean, but I don't live in Texas.
When you say it was the media about the DEI and the transgender issues, they staffed a lot of the administration during the Bidens with people of that persuasion.
Absolutely.
So for sure.
And I'm not saying trans people aren't smart. I'm not saying they can't have those jobs. I just don't want you playing against my daughter or my niece or whatever.
But it became so important to the identity of Democrats to put things in academic institutions, in government roles, for acceptance on that side of things. They made it centerpiece of what they stand for.
The right-wing media did an expert job of it. Talk radio, because let's face it, the right wing, I hate this mainstream media thing. I hate that term. I've hated that since I first heard it. Right-wing radio reaches more people than CNN does, especially with people cutting the cords. No cable, no streaming service or whatever. Right-wing media reaches more people. Fox News has the highest ratings of any cable news network. And you know what? But they paid $700 million and flat out said we're in the entertainment industry. So how are you still going there for your news? I'm not saying you are, Joe, but I mean.
Well, the Democrats tried Air America. They've tried a couple of competing liberal talk radio. Absolutely. And the support wasn't there.
If you don't have the sponsors, if you don't have the advertising, you're dead. Yeah. You're dead in the water because radio.
But then social media, they dominated. They had captured Facebook, they captured Google, they captured all X at the time. And they actually starved competing, web media from advertisers.
Do you think Elon Musk has done a heck of a job with X?
Oh, heck yeah. In one respect is that it became messier, but way more transparent.
Do you think that hate speech is okay? Do you think
you gotta tell me what hate speech is?
Do you think white supremacists should be able to post without repercussions? Because it's a freedom of speech thing. This is where I'm going here. But do you think also that the far left can
legally? I think hate speech is a protected thing no matter what. If it's saying something negative because of some kind of bias you have or some kind of bigotry that you have, it's free speech. And it's up to the rest of us to say that that's stupid and we shouldn't do it and counter it and do more speech against it and whatever. But as far as somebody putting a product out, they kind of determine what they want to curate. And if you don't want to be dominated, where if you have a bunch of white supremacists that are on something and they get priority versus a minority of the, of people seeing those kind of posts, like I wouldn't want that for my product. So I'd probably minimize it a little bit.
Charlottesville, prime example, Trump's first term. People walking through the streets with torches in their hand saying Jews will not replace us. Guess where else that happened? Berlin, Germany, Nuremberg, Germany. And I'm not saying he's a Nazi. I'm not. But the optics are there that he has gone that way. I won't call him the H word because I hate that word. But the optics were the same thing. If you look back in history, because I am a little bit of a historian, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I try to match history to what's going on now.
Well, okay, so if he was at a rally and there were people that were carrying those signs, okay, then you had who was that lady who went to the ICE detention center?
Some representative over in New Jersey.
Yeah, whatever her name was. But anyway, she went there, and there were people behind like Israel. Must die, cleanse or whatever. You can't connect the idiots that are at that thing with the person that also is at the rally, right?
Yeah, anti-Semitic. What's going on in our campuses right now?
But you wouldn't hold her accountable for the idiots that are on the street with the stupid signs, right?
No. I mean, my thing is, I can only tell what comes out of your mouth. You know what I mean? And I can I mean, we've had them around here. We've had the neo-Nazis around here. We've had the Black Lives Matters around here. They're both wrong. That's the thing. That's the far left, the far right, battling each other. You know what? I don't care if you're red, black, purple, green, or yellow. I don't care if you're Palestinian or if you're Israeli. If you're a good person, I don't care. I mean, he won on, like I said, Trump won on two things here. He won on immigration, which nobody wants criminals in your. I mean, I don't want criminals in my backyard. How about you? I mean, I don't want somebody that will kill people, but I do want due process. I do want what it hasn't been suspended like it is now since the Civil War. I mean, people are getting deported that have been here for 10 years and pay taxes because they're not undocumented. I've seen something that undocumented immigrants, paid more taxes last year than like the top 5 companies in the country combined last year. How does that happen? I mean, I understand taxes could be bad. I mean, I'm not going down the rabbit hole of taxes.
No, but did you see that I did the calculations on the total amount that undocumented immigrants put into the tax system, which was about $200 billion. And then when you divide it out, those same immigrants, their minimum, where if they use less than $6,600 worth of government services, schools, hospitals, whatever, then they're a net gain. Do you think it's possible that those illegal undocumented use less than $6,000 worth of government services?
I mean, a lot of them, because a lot of them are afraid to go anywhere. A lot of them, I mean, they're not going to walk into a welfare office trying to get a food stamp card. If they go to the hospital, it's because they're sick. They're not going to, undocumented immigrants feed us. Are you going to go out in the middle of a field in Florida, 95 degree heat with 100% humidity and pick strawberries? I'm not going to do that for $5 an hour.
Well, I'm not going to justify it though by letting someone break the law in order to feed me strawberries. You know what I mean?
Illegal immigration is a civil act. It's a civil crime. That's the way the laws are written. It's not a criminal act.
It's a person that committed a crime. You're giving a benefit for committing the crime.
And here's where history comes in. This is where I wanted to go with the immigration. A lot of us Europeans, by the way, we're not even talking about the white European illegal immigrants. We're talking about the brown ones from Central America. A lot of us can't even prove that our guys came over, or our ancestors came over illegally, because you know what? There were so many of them back then. They skipped. They just just go. Like I can't prove that my grandfather's parents came over here legally. I can't. A lot of Italians got over here illegally. That's where the mob started. Lucky Luciano wasn't documented. You see where I'm getting at here?
Right. But the thing is, historically, there were a lot of things where law did not protect innocent people and didn't preserve culture. So if you want to go back to the same period of time where those laws were being broken, there was a whole lot of stuff that you're not suggesting that we start doing today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's another thing. We don't have an official language. People are like, well, if you don't speak English, you can't say it. For our founding fathers, for a purpose, didn't say English was our official language. Didn't say Christianity was our official religion. Because you know what? We should separate church and state. This is why I hate prayer breakfasts in Congress. Yeah, if you're religious, go to your own. Don't have a religious thing in my capital. We don't pay taxes for you to have a religious thing in our capital. I have no problem with you worshiping whoever you want to. But there's a separation of church and state. It should never be said anything about religion in my government. Period. Look at the Constitution. God's only in there one time. So help me God. Period. There's nothing in the, you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. But, and that any type of religion then needs to be out of the state house.
Absolutely.
Right? Environmentalism would be a religion.
Ten Commandments in the Tennessee State House. Why? I mean, if a Muslim gets elected or a Jew, gets elected there, they can go walk by that every day. I'm not saying they don't. I mean, Ten Commandments are common sense to me. They are. They're how everybody should do it. But it offends some people. Why would you make them walk next to that every day? See where I'm getting at here?
Yeah, any dogma. I'm with you. Any dogma needs out of the state house. Because it's one of those things where someone is interested in something, half the people disagree with the belief in that thing, and they need to stay out of the fabricated.
By the way, I love that you brought Dan Rivers' Facebook crew and social media crew over here.
Oh, they were part? I didn't know that they were.
Yeah. When he would do his face, like, you got Jerry, you got Carter, you got Julie. That used to be my entertainment during Dan Rivers' show, is to watch them go.
Carter said, "Did you listen to the Arnold Schwarzenegger interview on The View?"
I did not see that one.
Oh my goodness! From a conservative standpoint, man, he was right on. Because of him being an immigrant, said that when you come to a country, you respect the laws, you don't break stuff, you're considerate with the people, you assimilate into, you try to give back more than you take. Like, it hit all the patriotic chords with most people who from the
and I agree, come here legally or what, but a lot of these people are coming here the same reason why our ancestors came here. When I know my ancestors came here because Italy was, going fascist. Like, we're still humans. The Statue of Liberty still says, bring me your huddled, bring me your masses, bring me your poor.
Let me ask you this. Let's just say this first round of deportations are just criminal element. People who have murdered, raped, pillaged,
I'm fine
whatever.
with that.
We get all those people out of there. Crime comes down. Now you can deal with the people, like you said, have been here for a decade, tried to assimilate. Even though they broke through the gate, they're at least here. If we were to take those people and find an adequate punishment, or at least a cost that they circumvented when they came here illegally, and then gave them a pathway in here after getting behind whatever, you'd be for that.
This was something that Hillary said when she ran with Obama. Did you see that, host?
Yeah.
This when she changed completely. That's why she lost, because she went to that far left side. We can't go far right. We can't go far left. We need to go back here to the center.
Would you? And I have a feeling this is how this is going to go down. After they strip away those illegal criminals, they're going to find a way to deal with who's remaining, because they could be great contributors to society if
they are. They already are. They have families. Some of them have been married for 10 years, have 2 kids. I can't remember. It's not the Maryland guy that everybody's thinking of, but I think there was another guy in Maryland who bought a house with his wife. They were both illegal. They were both undocumented. How do you buy a house in this country being undocumented? I have no clue. I'm pretty sure you have to sign away your firstborn to buy a house.
Yeah.
But they had 3 or 4, or no, it's in Florida. It's the Florida 21-year-old daughter is raising her 3 younger kids right now because they go to a hearing every year or whatever, and hey, I'm still here, I'm working. They own a business, they're paying taxes, they bought their own house, their kids are in school, their daughter's in college. Why? What did they do to anybody here to drain on our society? And I'm not saying we shouldn't help people, because social services is a completely different thing here. I know we don't want our huddle, we don't want your masses, we don't want your poor or whatever. But the people from Haiti that were in Springfield, they were going to get killed if they stayed in Haiti. So do you want, as a human being, you're like, okay, well, and the people in Springfield love the Haitians. They overwhelmingly wanted them to stay. Why can't we still be humans? Yeah, I want them to contribute as much as you do. I don't want them to be a drain on our. But a lot of these people, they do jobs we won't do because they don't either pay enough or it's just too backbreaking work. Lawn care in the state of Florida, good luck finding somebody that looks like me and you doing it anymore. Period.
So what if I floated this? We take any of those people that are requesting asylum, that they have a host, a civic group, somebody who has personal connections, that they adopt them into their community and they become responsible, and the government stays out
Sponsors,
of it.
absolutely. That's how Canada does it.
100%.
Canada, you know who's got some of the most, the toughest immigration laws in the Western Hemisphere is Canada. You have to have a sponsor. You have to show you can be contributing. I think they go a little far with that sometimes, but it's still, we are the country where people come for the pursuit of, happiness and liberty and stuff.
But you don't think that the government just opening the door and saying, go have fun and letting you do your thing, it was terrible.
They went too far. Okay. Right. It's still the security of this country, but we still have to identify the criminal element through due process. Period. Like, you can't just say, hey, you have a tattoo, you're a criminal. I'm sorry, I don't trust the government to know what tattoos mean. I mean, maybe the Department of Corrections, who have done it for ever, but just because you have a tattoo means you're going to go back to a place you're probably going to get killed in. And I'm not saying like Garcia, he's in Tennessee now with a human trafficking charge. Okay, but why did that charge come after the pushback was so great to get him back? Why didn't you do that when he was in Maryland? Why did you have to go send him back to El Salvador, which the only country you couldn't send him to legally was El Salvador? You couldn't send him back to his home country because he was afraid for his life in his home country. I just don't see how the Republicans could be, I'm not going to say heartless, but I mean, I don't know. If I said, hey, you have to go back to your country, that person got killed 2 months later, that's on my conscience. There is no conscience.
Do you think it was a problem, though, that the Democrats hung their hat on this guy and he turned it out to be a total human debris?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's got to go through due process in Tennessee to tell us this. He's going to do this. So if he was a human trafficker, absolutely, he needs to go to jail. He needs to go to prison. But is this something? See, this is where you can't believe in the media. What if he didn't do anything? What if he gets acquitted? Then what are we going to do? They're going to send him back to El Salvador? If they're in office, absolutely they are. And because, we're not wrong.
Yeah, I love your mistrust of the government. I just wish you would be more mistrusting in more departments, because they're not as noble, in my opinion, as you think they are.
Well, the government is here for one thing, to protect the people. Now, great, I don't think we need $1 trillion Pentagon budget. Do you?
Oh, I don't know. I've never really looked into misspendings, if they can cut back, how much is really necessary. I'm guessing that, we're probably overspending in every department. If
the FBI is protecting the homeland like they should, and the CIA is overseas doing their job, do we need this? I mean, if they're thwarting the attacks that should, because this is their job, to let our military know what's going on. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, hey, this is going to happen. We need to go here.
It takes somebody like an Elon Musk, somebody who can set some
now we're going to get into it.
to set some goalposts that doesn't have a dog in the fight, isn't either benefiting or it's hurting.
He was benefiting.
To say what is necessary and what's excessive. And I don't know.
They might not say he got paid or whatever. Like, Trump doesn't take payments for being. He can't do it. Trump has to take the presidential salary. You can't just donate it. That's what it's there for. You have to take it. But Musk, he's got his own, obviously, issues. I mean, like last night, he had another rocket explode. How much did that cost us taxpayers with the subsidies from SpaceX?
$0. He doesn't get federal subsidies.
Yes, he does. Absolutely.
No,
look it up.
Not
$180 billion.
No, this program, the Mars program, is completely publicly or privately funded by Starlink. He's self-funding that.
But what qualifications does he have to go to our government and say he's gotten our government, and then be like, you know what? Oh, maybe we cut too much. Maybe we're going to come back over here. He had no rights to do that. There was no concept. He had no rights to open Doge. Doge was an illegal entity in itself. It was a cartel in itself. I call it a cartel.
Okay. I disagree, but okay.
No, I mean, he might have found some interesting stuff, but how do we know it was true that he even found it? There's been so many lies by the Trump administration, period, and the Biden at that time, but right now we're talking about the one that's in office. There's been so many lies. How do we know what he's, there's a transgender opera in Ireland or whatever it was.
They published them on a website. They published the contracts.
Okay,
the
so it's on the internet.
amounts.
It's true.
Okay, fine. If you don't
I'm
believe what they published.
I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I want to see more evidence.
What would it take to satisfy you that it was legit?
I would like to see the official document that it happened, or I'd like to see somebody completely independent, which I don't know if we can get there anymore, go in there and do that. Al Gore did it right. Al Gore cut the budget enough to balance the budget in the 90s with a Democrat president who wanted more social services. I mean, granted, he gutted our industry with NAFTA, but Reagan drafted NAFTA. He just signed it. It was kind of like the Afghanistan debacle. Trump negotiated that with the Taliban. By the way, why would you negotiate with the people that harbored the terrorists that caused 9/11? I don't know. But now the Biden administration could have got out of Afghanistan a lot smoother. By the way, the people that say, hell, you left $1 billion worth of, we leave equipment everywhere. It's cheaper to keep it there than it is for us to fly it out. We get rid of the proprietary information, the top secret stuff. If it's got it, we blow it up. But we never bring our military equipment back home. We never do that.
All right, so back to the Doge.
Yeah, back to the Doge.
So this is
part of the,
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
And so basically Doge puts out the summaries.
Yep.
All right. The executive
$150
order,
billion, whatever it was.
The executive either cancels the contracts that they are coming up on, and then Congress then creates rescission measures to get rid of out of the allocated money. So Congress is going to have a chance to look through the findings of Doge to find out if it was horseshit, if it was real, or there was something in it that needs to be cut.
But is the damage done? Are you going to get these people back if you got to bring them back? Are you going to be able to get this funding through with a Republican Congress and Senate to reallocate it? You see what I'm saying? Like, USAID did a lot of good things. It did a lot of good things. It helped keeping viruses away from us. And, USAID was the reason why, if I'm not mistaken, polio was eradicated, or a version of it.
If you found out USAID was being used to fund Republican campaigns and Republican partisanship, you wouldn't be against, like you just wrapped up something good in something I disagree with. You think that was a fair use of taxpayers' money if it was going towards Republicans?
Well, if it was going,
you got to admit, got to admit,
no,
that was sneaky.
I don't want to. It's supposed to be a nonpartisan aid package,
but they made it partisan. By funding NGOs that did the bidding of the Democrats. So yes, you have to
absolutely
you have to pull out those programs.
Cut those programs, but don't cut malaria research. Don't cut, polio is making a comeback in this world.
But they're wrapping things that you would never get rid of in things so they can fund.
They got rid of the whole department, Joe. There's
all of a sudden
left.
You're trusting of the government. See, this is where I wish you would say NGOs are breaking the rules. These government entities are breaking the rules. Government's breaking the rules. But why that one who are funding cancer research isn't breaking the rules?
The first place you should have went with Doge, I would have been all for it, the Pentagon. I used to live in a county in Florida. You had McDonnell Douglas, you had Lockheed Martin, you had Halliburton, you had all the defense industries stationed in this one county. I don't know, granted they have places all over the country, but like a lot of their main offices were there. Start there. You know how many defunct government contracts we pay out to people that never deliver, their ammunitions or their technology or whatever they're there for? It's been a problem since World War II. Since we built up the military the first time.
The strategy was, though, they needed some wins in the short term. They needed to find a lot of misspending, so they targeted the ones that would give them the biggest number that they were able to cut out. USAID was probably one of the more corrupt ones.
$150 billion. He said he'd go for $2 trillion. Where else were we going besides the Pentagon?
Oh,
$800 billion to $1 trillion. And by the way, the deficit's got to go up $5 trillion in the next 10 years. Where are we cutting? Chip Roy, one of my favorite Republicans in the world. You know who Chip Roy is from Texas? Do you ever see his house? Because I watch a lot of C-SPAN. I've got, especially since the work I used to do, I've gotten a lot more into politics. As we know, my background was sports. But Chip Roy's, he sounds a lot like Jim Traficant did on the floor. And let's face it, Jim Traficant was one of the first to say America first. He was one of the first to go after China. But Chip Roy will be like, I'm not voting for this. If the Senate strips out this, strips out that, I'm not, but guess what? He'll end up doing it because Donald Trump's got that. The Republican Party is not the Republican Party. It's Trump's party. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, it is literally Donald Trump's party. The Democrats are the Democrats, but you have two factions of Democrats. You have the central Democrats that still get things done. That's why Chuck Schumer voted for you shut down the government. Who does it help? The person that's in office, 90% of the time a government gets shut down, it's probably going to get voted out of office because you let it happen. If you're a Republican or Democrat in your district, they're not going to like it. Especially if you're a government worker that was out of work for so many weeks. This happened in the first Trump presidency. They shut down the government for what was it, 58 days or whatever? That's what flipped the House and the Senate for Trump because he had soaring approval ratings at that time. And I'm not saying he's doing everything wrong. I think he's handling the Middle East completely wrong because this is where with this whole Israel, we're that close to Iran and Russia. I don't know if China will get into this or not because I think China still wants to stay up here and collect their money. Who funds the Israeli military? Who gave them the Iron Dome? Who gives them the Patriot missiles? By the way, you want to see a great light show? Sit in the middle of Iraq, watch the missiles go over top of you right now. But I mean, who gave Netanyahu because they need permission. They know we fund their whole military complex over there. You don't think Donald said, all right, go get it because they're not negotiating with me. So is this a temper tantrum by Trump because the Iranians aren't doing what he wants to negotiate? All right, start firing weapons. By the way, a new war has just started under Trump's presidency, so there's a promise that's out the window. We're going to have to get involved in this. As much as we are, we're going to have to give them the bunker busting bomb to end it, to get rid of their nuclear program. Nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I don't want nuclear weapons in this world at all. I mean, but where else are we going to go here? There's no and Netanyahu is staying in power by creating wars. These Israelis don't like him anymore. They want nothing to do with him. But he knows once he's out of power, bad things are going to happen to him and his administration. Because can you tell me they haven't gone too far in Gaza?
Say that again?
Do you think they've gone too far in Gaza?
Gone too far? Like that thing's a cluster. Like if I can't even evaluate it because of how complicated it is. So I wouldn't even know what to do.
Why haven't they let media in there?
Box. What's that?
The IDF won't let media in. They've been in every war zone since Vietnam. Why won't the IDF let media in to Gaza? Hey, I mean, see, you say this, you're anti-Semitic. No, I'm not. I have Jewish people in my family. My great-great-grandmother on my mom's side was a Polish Jew. She came over here. She had the tattoo of her number in Sobibor. But do you not think we're going to get involved in this war?
Well, I think it's been a long time coming. I mean, you have so many countries that are ruled by, these zealots, for Muslim zealots and terrorist groups and whatever. I don't know what you do. How do you get countries that are pretty weak, pretty destitute? That how do you get them to self-root out the terrorist element in the control of their government? Like, it's going to be someone smarter than me that takes on something like that. I mean,
and October 7th. Was the same, or October 8th for them was the same as we were on September 12th of 2001. Everybody was behind Israel. Everybody wanted this mayhem to stop. But how far do you go? Where is that fine line to be like, all right, you did your job. Children are dying. Nobody wants to see dead women or children on their TV, ever. This is why the IDF is not letting the media inside Gaza. They are, they embed themselves in here. They embed themselves. Guess what? You have the Mossad. You make our FBI and CIA look stupid. You see what the Mossad did in Iran to even lace these targets? Mm-mm. They have videos of them literally like embedded in the Iranian, provinces, like lacing these targets, for their planes and stuff like that. Who gave them the planes? Is Israel making anything military? So we're already in this war. This is why Iran, who's already been mad at this administration for the Soleimani and Baghdadi's hit, which we were all for, but the chickens are going to come home to roost here. I have a feeling they have sleeper cells here, and we might end up with something bad here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm not FBI. I don't follow these people. But if Iran has a sleeper cell here, they've just been woken up. Especially the first bomb that they know comes out of a U.S. plane with a U.S. pilot or a drone hits Iranian soil. Game over. And Russia and Iran are like this right now. And I mean, we've held Russia at bay in Ukraine for how long? What has it been? 3 years now, almost. Mm-hmm. I mean, and people say like Zelensky, well, he's a dictator because he's not having elections. Who has an election when your country's being bombed? Do you think Zelensky's a hero?
I stay out of it. I don't create villains and heroes. It's a cluster no matter what. And so I'm on board with America protecting America first and staying out of all these entanglements everywhere. Okay,
you know where else we heard that? World War II. We're staying out of it. Germany's taking over France. They're taking over Belgium. They're taking over. This is where history comes in. They were launching V2s over to the UK. Obviously, it was an island. They couldn't really. I mean, Churchill, this is what's going to happen. He said this. He said it about the Soviets after the war. He said it about the Germans, after Poland. They're not going to stop. So you go with Poland, Sudetenland. Let's go take France in 6 weeks. How do you take a country in 6 weeks the size of France, who's been through so many wars? But then the Japanese, if the Japanese don't bomb us, we're speaking German. Period. Because we would have been caught off guard. We wouldn't have had the resources, and they eventually would have got done with Europe, and they would have came here. If they would have took over the Russians, can you imagine Europe and Russia being Germany, and China and Japan, and all the Asian countries being Japan? We're done. The only reason I'm not an isolationist because I know what happened. I've studied what happened. I had two grandfathers in that war that knew we got into it about 2 years too late. Same as World War I. World War I went 3 years past what it should have. World War I was like an 8-year war combined.
So do you suggest that we give Israel the bomb so they can end this thing and get it over with?
I suggest we need. I don't know if we want to. It's not going to end if we bomb them. It's going to start. That's where I'm getting at here. We need to stop Israel. We need to go back to. We need.
That is so weird, though. That
I know
we're taking Israel as the crux of it when they're the ones that were attacked.
No,
they're the ones that the nuclear material would end up in.
Okay, but Israel also wiped out Hezbollah with cell phones.
I understand. There's a lot of bad blood and a lot of wars that predated this one, but still to end it.
No, this is part of this one.
All right, go ahead.
This is the God. Because the Iranians fund the Houthis, Hezbollah, Gaza, or the Hamas and all that. They blew up the leadership of Hamas or Hezbollah with pagers in Lebanon. You just see poofs of smoke coming up through Beirut.
All right, so are you arming Iran to take out Israel?
No, I'm not arming either one of these.
What are we playing? What
we need to get the rest of the world. This is where the globalization comes in. You need to get the whole world into this, and we need Netanyahu on one side, the supreme leader of Iran on the other side. Be like, listen, who are you helping here? We don't want this whole. The whole region's going to go up, and it's going to spread to the rest of the world because Russia's going to come in on it. China might come in on it. South Korea or North Korea might come in on it. Excuse me. Something bad's going to happen if we don't stop it now. It's bad happening now because the Iranians are firing so many missiles. The Iron Dome can't hold it. You have a hospital that just got bombed in Israel, but obviously there's more outrage than that than there was in the Gazan hospitals that have been bombed. I don't have this. I'm not a politician, but bombs flying over Iraq right now going either way is not the solution. It's just we have to get involved somehow. Politically, I don't know if I trust this administration to solve this problem because Trump's like, maybe we will, maybe we won't. How does that help anybody? Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Is that him trying to tell the supreme leader, stop it? Or you see what I'm saying? Like, Israel started this. This isn't like Iran flung the first missiles across. And, Israel's got to protect themselves. We're at a fine line. I'm all for protecting Israel as a country, as a state. But why can't we give the Palestinians their own state and have them elect? I mean, they did elect Hamas, which is their issues, but
you don't think that's a big issue?
But
they elected a terrorist group to
that is completely an issue.
And then so you're their neighbor, and you know that an area, a territory, is so bought into the culture of terrorism. They're your neighbor, right? And you think that they could ever play nice?
Well, well, they were reselling the West Bank for what, 20 years now, trying to get that's Palestinians live in the West Bank. Leave it alone. You've got Jerusalem.
While you were leaving it alone, Iran
this
was
is where Hamas came, but this
funneling the money through Iran to these terrorists.
This is where Hamas comes in, though, because you're radicalizing more people than you're helping right now.
That's why I said this is a cluster. There is no clear-cut answer.
This is why the Palestinians elected them, because they thought Arafat with the PLO was getting too soft on Israel. But the West Bank, they're like, we live here, like we've lived here our generations of our lives. But the Israelis slowly but surely try to take over more of their territory. And not to mention, the Israelis pretty much runs their power, runs their water. You're not even giving them a chance to develop, is what I'm saying. This is how you get terrorism. This is how you get the people of Palestine going over to Iran and be like, listen, you see what these do?
But it brings us up to like where we are right now, where they already are ruled by terrorists. So like fixing that and rooting it out, that's not up to the outside. The outside world can't do that. It has to be, grassroots in those countries that they elect democratic leaders and they admonish terrorism instead of embracing them. We're nowhere close to having that kind of culture.
Well, I mean, I don't know if because let's face it, democracy doesn't work for everybody. But two religions going after each other. This is where religion shouldn't be nowhere near government. But there's something's got to happen that hasn't happened before, because we can't let the Middle East go up in flames. It's not good for anybody in the world to let a region of your globe go up in flames. If we just sit back and watch, you cut Israel's weapons off completely, you're going to leave Israel defenseless. So we're in the war. Then we're in the war, just like we were in Afghanistan in the 80s. This is going to go back to it. Remember when Soviets invaded Afghanistan? Who do you think won that war for the Mujahideen, who was led by bin Laden, by the way? The Stinger missiles to get the helicopters, so they'd have air superiority. We were in that war, but it was a proxy war for us. This is what this is. This is a proxy war for us. We're already bombing Iran. I don't know if there's USA on the side, but it was built probably McDonnell Douglas, Lockheed Martin, it was built by one of our defense industry. So we're already in the war, but we have to end the war, because Israel and Iran aren't going to talk. They're not going to talk to each other. They're just going to keep lobbing missiles, because guess what? Ground force is a little hard to get in through Iraq. But Iraq's also said, it's weird seeing Iraq and Iran in the same spot. If you go in, if you bunker bust them, we're on Iran's side. The whole Middle East is going to go that way. So Israel's still here. You're going to have Syria, you're going to have Jordan, you're going to have Gaza, you're going to have Lebanon, you're going to have Turkey, even parts of Turkey. You're going to have Iraq, and you're going to have Iran. Okay, we can't keep going to war like this.
Yep. All right, we got to wrap up there, John. This was good. I'm glad we got to have John's perspective on things. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.